Yeah, I'm gonna do one last video. I guess I'll put these together in like a series or something about this whole debate. I'm just really disappointed with the level of understanding that people have here on on these two debates with Sargon and all those guys about the petition. It seems like none of them ever went to college. like, or no. It seems like the people haven't been to college in such a long time, but then like the Woolly Bumblebee and all those guys are like purporting as if they know what college is like, and it's disgusting because they have no idea. I mean, these are coming from people that say physics is wrong. It's like, did you ever take physics in college? No, obviously not, or you failed, and so you didn't take it again. So you get all these people that just you should just never talk about things you don't know about. And sometimes I'm a little bit guilty of that. Everyone is, but especially when you're trying to have a constructive debate on a stream, will you please just stop talking about things you know nothing about? Like stop bringing up Newtonian physics is wrong. It is not wrong. It is not always correct. There is a difference between something being wrong and something being not always applicable. It is right when it is applicable. It is not wrong because it is inapplicable at some points. If you have a solution that only exists over a certain range of situations, that does not make the solution incorrect. That is not like, you know, if you have x is greater than 0 is the solution to some equation. That does not make that solution incorrect because it is not valid for x is less than 0. That doesn't make any sense. So this weird thing where things are just not like they just keep bringing up arguments that they don't really seem to know anything about, and you can't even attack him or attack Sargon's position like this because it doesn't matter. You're using a pedantic definition of censorship and you're using a pedantic definition of all sorts of terms, but then when he asks you to define them, you won't until you finally get the dictionary definition, and they just trot it out like the feminists do. He basically could have asked you to define feminism, and you just stuttered along until you pulled up the dictionary definition. That's what you did. The Woolly Bumblebee, you are an SJW at this point. You are defending social justice courses and saying that they are correct, because you are not saying that they are incorrect. Which sounds like a false dichotomy, but what you're saying is we should teach them because people can decide for themselves whether or not they are incorrect. But that's not how it works. You don't decide for yourself whether or not 2 plus 2 is 4. You don't. That's not a decision you make on your own. It is true. You can decide not to believe it, and not believing it makes you dumb. So this weird thing where it's just like, oh, it's not correct because I don't think it's correct. Yeah, shut up. That's not how it works. You can't just decide. It is not a unilateral decision you can just make one day and just be like, actually no, this is not correct because I don't think it is. And this weird thing where they're doing where besides moving the goalposts and all the other weird sophistry that they're doing is that they don't seem like willing to change their position because they don't seem to really fundamentally disagree with Sargon on anything other than pedantic definitions and exactly what the petition is going to do. But they don't actually really have any arguments against it. More like they have arguments saying that it might be something that they might be against. But that's not an argument against its existence. That might be an argument saying that they might not support it. But yet they're purporting as if he's doing something wrong. Like he's committed some wrong thing. As if Sargon has equated some inevitable evil or created some inevitable evil that's going to destroy Western civilization. It's fear mongering. It's like watching Fox News combined with social justice and the Young Turks all in one at the same time. It's like Joe is basically Bill O'Reilly. That is who he is at this point. And I don't, there's no need to dogpile on him or anything. But like I've said previously, just stop. It is unnecessary at all to just be so pedantic and to be so uncharitable and so malicious towards the people that at first invited you so that you could have your opinion on a much bigger platform. If anything, at first you should have been thankful to Sargon because his platform is much larger than yours. And you have now gotten you had a great chance to broaden your audience by at least having points, being respectful, because even if I don't agree with you, if you're respectful, I might subscribe to you and listen to what you have to say. I might unsubscribe later if I just can't find anything to agree on. But if you're respectful and nice and courteous and charitable to your opposition, I might subscribe to you. Like, I've considered subscribing to Kevin Logan, but I don't think we have enough in common with our views, and I don't think a lot of his series would interest me. But, but he seems to be relatively charitable to his opposition. Now, sometimes he gets a little bit SJWE, but I mean, I think that's also just part of his position, and it's hard not to like devolve sometimes. I think into some of the like finger pointing and shit like that because it's just so inherent with identity politics. And I don't want to sound like I'm doing apologia for Kevin Logan or something like that, but I understand the guy, and I think he thinks he's doing the right thing. But I don't know if Joe from the Willy Bumblebee actually thought he was doing the right thing. I think he was trying to bite Sargon's hand, and I don't know why. Because if you think about it this way, Sargon would have been doing them a big favor, and for some reason, he was like trying to gain some weird power over him. The same weird power play where they're calling him Carl. And I made a comment on their video, just like power word Carl, like as if calling him Carl somehow removes his agency. Respect him enough to use his pseudonym, even though you know his real name. You don't need to call him Carl Benjamin all the time. Like, you walk up to everyone and just call them by their full name. Like, I know there's people I used to talk to a lot where we still online would give each other enough respect to call ourselves by our online screen names, even though we knew our real name. As we became closer, friends, that's when you start using people's real name. But I don't think these people are friends. It's the whole, you might call him Mr. Benjamin in real life or something. And to be respectful, only when you're good friends do you call him Carl. It's disrespectful, and they're doing it on purpose, as if it gives them some power. It's as if he hadn't had already put his name out there. It's kind of like when a doxer gets your name, and now they're just gonna put it out there, like as if it gives them some sort of power over you. Like, oh no, don't say my name, and it's just disgusting. It was like he was doing some power play, and then he was like, "Oh, Sargon, you're just looking for some gotcha moment." While the whole time, that's what he was doing. He was trying to stump Sargon and show that he was better than him. He was trying to win the debate, not come up with a solution. They were not debating to be the most accurate or to be the most honest. They were debating so that they could win. And that is never what you should do. You should never debate to be a winner. You should always debate to be correct. And yes, to debate to find the most correct solution. And it might not be yours. The other person is allowed to be right. Just because you're on the other side does not mean that they have to be wrong. If anything, the purpose of debate is to bring people all to one side. That is the purpose. It's to find, and it might not be either side presented. It might turn out that there's a third option. But there's no need for a false dichotomy. There can be a third option, and maybe everyone figures out during the debate that that is the most correct option, and that is the best result of a debate. The debate should never be a shouting match. It should always be about everyone together finding the best solution. And it was very only disappointing, but it was very disturbing to watch it just evolve as much as it did. To the point where it was just sad to watch people be so disgusting to each other because it was just so unnecessary. And I think that when someone is being charitable to you and giving you a position at a debate where you might not have earned it, and there's a lot of people that could have represented that point better. Um, like the debate could have just been held on a different day, and they could have got like maybe like that guy T, who could have been a lot more respectful and still disagreed, because even though you just look at the video that that guy T did where he disagreed with Sargon, and look at the likes and dislikes. There are quite a few dislikes, but not nearly in the proportion. He probably still has like 80% likes, something like that, which is lower than he normally gets. But the thing is, he presented a good argument that was fair, and while it still required viewing it through a libertarian lens, which I don't agree with, it was still fair, and he was still being honest. He was not being disingenuous about Sargon's points. He just disagreed on some fundamental concepts, and he kind of disagreed with where the power was coming from and stuff like that. He kind of thought it was a little bit too authoritarian, one-dimensional, and whether or not you agree or not is completely different to how he handled it. That guy T was much more respectful in his video and did a much better job, even though it's a differing opinion, and of course Sargon completely disagreed. But uh, I wish they would have had him on instead of the Woolly Bumblebee, because the Woolly Bumblebee was just awful. Both of them were awful. They were just belligerent. They ganged up on him. They would both talk over him. They would talk over each other in their hurry to talk over him. They had that thing where Joe was shouting at Sargon while he wasn't even there because he was so into shouting he couldn't. He didn't even remember when Sargon said he left. And Arch is just like, guy, he's no longer here. You were shouting at nobody. Like V and Archer just trying to tell him, mate, there is nobody at the other end. You're shouting down an empty hallway just to hear your voice ring back. And it was pathetic. And I think that anyone who agrees with the methodology that they used should feel bad about themselves, because you're bad and you should feel bad, and your opinions are bad because they are derived through shouting and all sorts of other wickedness, I guess, to make it sound more biblical, because that's about what it is. It's religious in this thing. You are denying it not because your opponent is lacking merit. You're denying it to be a contrarian, and you're denying it to be obnoxious, and you're denying it so you can shout at somebody, and you're denying it as a power play, and it's not a good thing. So, and that's my take on all of that.